Hi, I'm Robin Hoffman. I'm a public artist here in Charlottesville, and some people want to know, what's a public artist? So a public artist is somebody who could sometimes land up in jail, and it's not easy. And I really don't understand how, for instance, Jane Fonda gets to go to jail every time she is really using her free speech. She's not actually what I think is doing harm to anybody by protesting the non-climate action. I think that there's a lot of things that are going on that are changing in the climate, in the environment, in the economy, and some people who, especially if they're retired or even if they have are well-to-do, if they can step up and give people ideas, I think it's very important. And so I'm thinking that we have a free speech country still, but that I don't really understand how people can become like arrested when they voice their opinion. And so I'm like, I really need to understand the process. But anyway.
Hi, Robin.
Oh my goodness! Jeff Fogel, thank you.
I heard the word free speech.
Oh my goodness. Oh, I can't believe it. Look, I'm in this jail, and it just happened. I don't even know how it happened. How does it happen? People, they say something, they protest something, they disagree with something, and they don't hurt anybody. And then all of a sudden, a police officer can say, well, look, I got to go to lunch, go to jail. And there's no process. But is there a process?
Well, first off, police officers...
Well, with that note, we're doing something, actually. And so this is what we're doing. So you're going to tell me the process, and we're going to actually put together a picture here.
Okay.
And then you're going to, if you don't mind, you're here. I was going to do this, but now I kind of it's like a game. I was thinking what's the game? You're learning geography, right? So you get a map. And you lay it out, so you can learn. This is about how you get in jail. What happens? How
you get in jail. Not. I think more people might be more interested in how you get out of jail.
Okay. But so for me, the first. So what you're going to do is you're going to just write little cues for this card. But anyway, so say I am protesting. I'm going to say the company's name is V. I won't say what it is. And I have my cell phone has a problem. And I go in there and they won't give me my guaranteed loan because they don't, phone, because they don't have the phone. And then the manager says, whatever. And then I'm like, no, I'm on the job. I need my phone. And I have the contract. It says 6 months. And they refuse to give it to me and tell me to leave. And then my phone is dead. I have no choice. I have to have a phone for my work. And then, let's say I call the police, and I tell them...
The police won't do anything about that. They'll consider it a civil matter.
So...
But if you have a contract with a company, and the company doesn't fulfill their part of the bargain, you're going to have to go to civil court.
They say all that, and then I'm out in the parking lot, right, let's say, waiting for them, and then they say, okay, we can't do anything about it, just like you said. And then they say, you need to leave. And I'm like, but I can't leave. I need a phone. And this is my company, whatever. And then they say, well, you can go see the magistrate. So if you get in the car, you can, come here and go and talk to them about it and call V up and then say, whatever. And then that's kind of like tricking, right? They do that sort of thing.
Yeah, but again, you don't have any criminal case. So the magistrate's only there to take complaints in criminal cases.
Suppose though, because I don't even know what magistrate is, This is what happens to real people.
Yes.
They have no idea what the police are up to. Like, you know, I'm thinking it's an office. I don't know who the magistrate is. Then let's say I go there and the magistrate says, you know, what's your name? What are you doing? Blah, blah. I mean, like, what's your name? What's your date of birth? Your social security number, whatever. And then, what are you doing? Are you going to leave Virginia? And then I say, of course I'm going to leave Virginia. Look how I'm being treated. You know, I'm putting in a patrol car. They put me in handcuffs.
For the trespassing.
For what? I didn't know that's what I was doing.
Look, according to the police, anybody they arrest has to be put in handcuffs.
But
they do not trust police officers to be able to make wise decisions like that, whereas you and I could make that decision based on how the person is acting. And it'd be a reasonable decision. The idea that everybody has to be handcuffed and behind their back is just wrong.
Okay, so now I'm in the magistrate, and the magistrate says, you're going to leave, you're going to bolt. That's what it means. And so they put me in jail.
Right. There's only two reasons why a magistrate could turn.
So step one, what you said is, just write down, the police have the right to put me in a police car. Well,
the police have broad discretion. Can I put it that way?
Yes.
And the next step would be they take you to a magistrate. They'll already have filled out all the forms in which you've given them the information that you were just relating, you know, your name, your address, stuff like that.
Well, is the magistrate like a judge?
Well, the magistrate is a judge, but only for very limited purposes, and that's for the setting of bail initially and the release question initially, and then they have nothing else to do with it. Not every magistrate is a lawyer, although it seems like more and more are. The problems are also that people who take that job, I don't think it pays very much. And so you get some young people who haven't have much experience with the law making those decisions. And I think they've made some, in my experience, some very bad decisions with very little supervision over them.
All right, so now
you go before the magistrate.
I go before the magistrate. Am I supposed to not say something? This is what I don't get.
Well, here's the magistrate.
If I say, you know, I'm going to bolt because I just bought a house,
right,
and then, you know, I can't believe the way I'm being treated. I'm not supposed to say all that, but how would I know that if I've never been arrested?
Well, they should tell you about that. There are only two reasons why a magistrate could deny you bail in a setting that you just described.
Yeah.
One is that you're a flight risk.
Right.
The other is that you're a danger to society.
Right.
Of course, the likelihood that you're a danger to society from a trespass case is pretty limited. So, are you a flight risk?
I said I was.
Yeah, well, and you were, you shouldn't have said it. You just shouldn't have said it. Because that magistrate's got to make that decision.
Right,
and
they should have discerned, or they would discern, like if I'm a person who's never been arrested before, that I don't know what I'm talking about, that I didn't know that I shouldn't say that. That's what I'm, okay, so that's number one. So we're going to put that over here. This is fun, right? It's like, I invented this game. Okay, so now, okay, number two.
Who's on the other side?
Oh, don't look. This is a surprise.
Okay.
All right, so now, once I'm in the jail, do they have the right to strip me, and what do they do then?
They can do a strip search upon entry.
No matter what?
No, there are limitations, and the Supreme Court, I think, has decided that with respect to minor offenses, like the one you're describing, trespassing, you can't do a strip search.
Write that down.
But again, I don't want to say that 100% because that's just in my memory.
Well, because I'm thinking every time Jane Fonda gets arrested, I don't think they make her take her clothes off and then spray her with some kind of lice.
You're right. I don't think they do that.
And check to see if she has anything in her purse. Behind.
Right. Oh, in her behind. Right.
Yes. Okay, so that's it may have a dependency on the type of
offense that you're charged with. But again, the interests that the prisons assert and that the courts usually accept are that this is a prison setting. It is by nature dangerous to everybody, people who are there as inmates, staff, and so on.
Right.
And therefore, they have to make sure that nobody brings anything in.
True.
So while you may not have been caught with an offense that would suggest that you're hiding something,
Or
think
violent.
about everybody who comes to visit,
Right.
who gets searched. And
they-
they haven't done anything
and they can have
except come to
drugs.
visit their loved one.
True.
And we're having this problem with the state now in correctional facilities, where they have dogs, the dogs are making mistakes, and then when they search the people, and they do thorough strip searches, they find nothing, and then they won't let them have what we call contact visits. You know, where you're actually in
Right,
contact with the
because
person.
somebody could.
But even after they found out that you didn't do anything. Now, I think there's some complaints about that, and so it may be starting to change. Just as, you know, the legislature just had to pass a law prohibiting the Department of Corrections from strip searching babies.
Oh,
Can you imagine how to pass a law to do that?
Whoa.
Now, that says something about where the Department of Corrections is at, that they need a law to tell them you don't strip search babies and you don't put women in shackles when they're giving birth.
so now the other thing is there in your mind like say they put you in holding or whatever that's called, I don't even know what it's called. Like say they put you in a certain place before you become processed or whatever. Is there a time that you're allowed to see a lawyer at that point? Like say that magistrate says, okay, throw her in jail. Now what?
Well, if you called me up, I could come see you.
But if
you didn't have the money to hire somebody,
well, not even
you
that,
can't.
but let's say, but from the time that you're in there until, how much time do they have till they have to give you a lawyer?
I don't know the answer to that
Oh.
question. I don't
There's
know
no
the answer.
regulations?
There should be, and I just can't think of any that I'm aware of. You're definitely entitled to make that phone call, so you're right. There's got to be a time period within which you should be able to do it. I just don't know what that time is, whether it's a matter of constitutional law or state law, statutes, or something like that. I don't.
So write that down because we don't know.
This is on the question of
How long can you call?
how long before a
till-
phone call.
Phone call. Now, I mean, I imagine that if I'm innocent and I'm a mom and I have a child in care, coming home from school, whatever, you know, they need to do something about it. They need to get in touch with my family or somebody.
Well, this is one of the problems, I think, in the criminal justice system. We do give support to victims and witnesses of crimes, but we don't recognize the victims who are associated with the defendant. After all, that child didn't do anything.
Right.
The wife, if you get, you know, the male gets arrested, the wife, or vice versa, the other spouse didn't do anything, but they suffer. And the children in particular suffer.
Yeah.
We know that, and we also know that children whose parents go to prison are more likely to go to prison themselves. And so when we're making decisions about putting people in prison, we're already making decisions about what the next generation is going to face. So there's a lot to be changed, let me just assure you of that. But let me just go back, by the way, even if you had a right to make a phone call within
An hour.
an hour, it's not going to do you any good if you don't have the money to hire a lawyer. And then, if you're entitled to a lawyer, obviously, if you're indigent and you face the possibility of jail, as you would in a trespass case, because it carries a maximum 1-year sentence, then you won't get that lawyer until you go to court. The judge examines you as to your finances, and then the judge appoints a lawyer. So that could be a week later, or it could be a couple of days later. It shouldn't be more than a couple of days later,
Whoa.
because they've got to arraign you. They've got to read you the charges and make sure you know what they are.
So, I mean, I think of people like Sandra Bland, you know,
Right.
who she was, wait, let me make sure this is the right way. Okay. Like she was arrested. First of all, she had a police officer who pulled her over because she had her signal. She didn't signal.
Right.
And so, you know, being a very heated time where people were being approached and she was nervous because she was African American and then also because people had been shot for no reason and in where she lived and things like that. So she was really nervous who this person was pulling her over, you know, looking like a cop. I don't even know if he was actually in full uniform. But anyway, so, and she was nervous. And so he could see that, you know, but instead he just kept egging her on and finally she landed up in jail, and then she died because it was too much for her. And she didn't really have a medical situation. And I think about people like her because she was able to articulate her situation, and everybody understood what had happened.
Well, we saw the video. I mean, I remember seeing the video of her initial arrest, and it was outrageous.
The magistrate would have understood. Everybody would have understood.
Should have.
She was not somebody who couldn't articulate.
Right.
She was very articulating her situation in detail. And she was upset, but she wasn't just raging. She was actually talking and making the connections of what happened. So that, to me, seems so unfair that we don't have a process where, from the very beginning, if you're a magistrate, how does somebody become a magistrate?
Well, you apply. It's actually run by the Supreme Court of Virginia. And I don't know what the criteria are.
You have to be an attorney to begin with?
No, you don't have to be an attorney. By the way, you know, you don't have to be an attorney to be a Supreme Court justice either. But they've never appointed a non-attorney. But maybe this president will appoint himself as for the Supreme Court.
Most likely.
After all.
Don't give him the idea, please. Thank you.
Okay.
So the next question I have then is, okay, she's in jail. And apparently, I'm thinking nobody could help her at that moment. Why she was there for 3 days? For a signal. I mean, to me, how does that happen? That she must have had a phone call. Somebody outside, she did have family, close family. Weren't they on the phone telling some official? Like, who would they have called? So you say, I'm a person on the outside. My friend calls me up, my daughter or whatever calls me up, says, okay, I'm in jail. And what do I do next?
You, not her. You go visit her.
But I can just go visit her in jail.
At the jail here.
At the jail.
Yes. It's important for people to know that there are people on the outside supporting them. You know that. And just that, just going to visit, I think, is a very helpful thing. But once you get that information, your question is, I guess, what do you do with it? There's not much you can do with it. The person's in jail. They're going to have an appearance in court. The judge is going to redetermine whether or not to hold them on bail. And that should have happened within a day or two. Right?
For that kind of crime. Whatever crime it was.
It should never have been in jail for that crime. I mean, the sad part here is that just taking that one comment about, would you stay in Virginia if this is what happened to you? And turn that into, you're running away. That's ridiculous. Without asking any questions, particularly if you have children. The likelihood of you running away is pretty low if you're picking up your kids from school every day. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Listen, I had a similar experience where they held me. And he wouldn't explain why. He wouldn't explain why, the magistrate.
Can you put on this one, if you're a family member, what should you do? And you get the call.
They should visit, make arrangements to pay bail, if there is any bail.
Yes.
And help get a lawyer. Those things.
All right, so now we're putting this together. This way. So it's a game I made. Okay, so we have to go a little faster. So now, next question for me is, I'm in jail. My family member knows I'm in there, and it's really a harmless situation. Everybody knows it's the third day. And I'm thinking to myself, nobody's doing anything. I'm innocent. I'm not a criminal. Is there anything somebody in jail can do at that moment besides say, I don't know, scream, I don't know what?
Realistically?
Yeah.
No. You have to reach out beyond the walls because you're not in a position to do anything. You're in a cell. They're not going to let you out of the cell to do stuff. They don't have a law library there. They don't have a lot of things that you might need if you were going to try to do that on your own.
So all these people who are homeless, their family, maybe they're older, and most of the people they know are dead, and they have to then just sit there.
Which is what they do. Although I saw a case yesterday, person charged with selling drugs, but they've been in jail for 7 months and they haven't been arraigned yet, which means the process hasn't even started. That is shocking. That shouldn't happen, because we also know if you're in jail awaiting trial, your likelihood of getting convicted is much higher. And particularly true for poor people who lawyers often rely on to do their own investigation. When I've represented poor people, we don't have the money to hire investigators, and yet we sometimes need an investigator. And that investigator sometimes becomes the defendant, him or herself.
As you're talking, I'm actually putting this together because there's so many steps that you have to undergo to be in jail. Anyway, when you put it together, that's you.
I was picking up on that. That's very cute.
Okay, but so what I'm going to do now, we have some more time, but what this was for me a process, why I did this mosaic, so to speak, this puzzle, this game, or whatever it's called, is that I was actually thinking like a Monopoly game, where, in the Monopoly game, you go to jail.
Right.
And the reason why you go to jail is just because you land on the jail.
Right.
But in this, not really a game, but in this sort of puzzle, that's why I kind of made it like that, is that you have to go through the steps and you have no choice. And there's what I would recommend, and they do this with DARE, with the kids, right? In school, they make them go to jail, some of them. What is it called?
Oh,
to scare them straight or something?
Yeah, scared straight.
Yeah.
I think that was
and they do that like for people who I guess don't realize the consequences, but they also do it for kids, like to show them, that there are consequences. But I don't think they really do this, like the steps. They don't really illustrate that this is, because they have a lot of NCIS. They have a lot of different police detective shows, FBI shows, and that sort of thing. But they don't really have, I don't think, what I'm trying to do here is to actually show step by step that it's really, there's no process there to protect you. And that you could land up in jail. And that you could be very innocent. And that, I don't know. So what are you saying? So should we have like a lawyer, like we have a doctor? Like we should have a lawyer all the time ready?
Well, at a minimum, I think there should be a lawyer available that works for the public defender's office that should be at the jail prepared to answer questions for people. But they don't have the resources. I can assure you, they just don't have the resources. They don't have enough of the resources to do what they have to do. And when they hire, the state hires private lawyers to do cases, and they pay them such atrocious fees that you can't even expect the lawyers to do much work. Lawyer gets paid $125 to represent somebody in a misdemeanor, such as the trespass.
Oh my gosh.
Right? Which is a misdemeanor.
And they have to do all this work.
Exactly, for $125. Now, for most people, you can't sit down with a lawyer for $125 just to talk. No, let's do that work.
I think people don't get that.
I know, they blame the lawyers, and to a certain extent, it's fair to blame the lawyers who aren't doing their job, but also you have to recognize that the system is set up for those lawyers who are assigned to indigent defendants not to be able to do their job.
But suppose you do pay a lawyer and the lawyer doesn't do the job.
Well, that's a problem, because then you have to eventually file a habeas corpus petition if you are convicted. I mean, obviously, if you're found innocent, it doesn't matter. But if you're convicted eventually and you can't take it up, it gets a little complicated. You can't raise the issue of your ineffective assistance of counsel on your direct appeal. You have to wait till that's over, and then you can file a habeas corpus petition.
How long do you get to file that? I mean, can
you
you
have
file
30
it?
days to file an appeal from the court that convicted you, and then you go up to the Court of Appeals, and you know, it could take a year, and then you try to go to the Supreme Court of Virginia.
Is there a, what's it called? Is there a time where you can't do it anymore?
Yeah.
Like how much time?
Well, if you don't get that appeal in within 30 days,
Oh.
you're going to be screwed. If you don't file your appeal papers within the time they give you to do it. I had that experience where I filed something a day late, and they wouldn't give me an extra day. The Supreme Court of Virginia wouldn't give me an extra day. And this was for a woman who'd been raped in prison.
Mm. What about the fact that, like what you were saying, is the lawyer doesn't do what they're supposed to, and then it's like everybody knows it. Like they could show up late to court, they don't have any preparation, and you paid them.
Well, you could sue them for malpractice, get your money back, and get some money if you end up in jail because of that.
But then I'd have to get another lawyer.
Yes, it's true. Another lawyer to sue that lawyer, and there's some lawyers that don't like to sue other lawyers. But there are others who do.
So just for general purposes, and not to reveal anything personal about your work, but so how much does the average lawyer need per hour to really do? It depends on the situation, of course.
But it also depends on what your overhead looks like. I'm speaking from the business perspective.
Yes.
The big law firms spend about 50% of their income on the furniture and artwork and stuff like that to look good in the law office. People who are solo practitioners like myself, we could keep it at half of that or less. And of course, that's the key for small practitioners to make money, is to keep your overhead low. So it depends largely on how much you're trying to show off how wonderful you are.
Well, I have to say that I know, for instance, I just want to show this to the camera. This is, let's see how you look. Can
I get in there?
Can you get in there?
Here we go.
Can we see both of you? Let me see. How's this look? How about you hold it? But we so appreciate you here. You're always helping everybody, and we love you very much.
I love that.
So that's what you get when you get a good lawyer. That's what it looks like all together. See that? That's the. But thank you so much for coming to the jail here to talk with me and tell me my rights. And I hope that.
And how you've been wronged. Mm-hmm. You want some lawyer jokes?
Yes, we do.
There are 3 reasons why laboratory researchers now prefer lawyers to rats for their research. Number 1, there are more lawyers than there are rats. Number 2, they can get the lawyers to do things that rats just won't do. And number 3, the researchers never grow attached to the lawyers.